Rosé and like oysters or any seafood is just awesome.
That the soil and the climate create this great wine,
Distinct like watermelon, almost Jolly Rancher aroma. And it's
celebrating what wine can do to bring people together.
just enjoy it. Love needs no explanation. And
Welcome back to the conversation. Today we're with Cynthia and Lauren Russell, the dynamic mother-daughter team behind Dancing Wine. Thanks for joining us today.
thanks for having
Thank you for
us.
having us.
I'm excited because I think I had the opportunity to taste your wines twice, both the media night from Manhattan Beach as well as the event itself. And so we've had some chances to see each other, and I'm happy to share your story more. As we get started, what is the most important message you'd like to share today?
Well, we have a few messages that we think really resonate with people. I think one of them is dancing is art and art is life. Another is love needs no explanation. I think really the thread between those is we're trying to create a product and an experience that brings people together and invites them to find their inner dance, which is something we say a lot. So we want to encourage people to like find their unique rhythms. And wine is also really lovely because it is a vehicle that brings people together to enjoy a moment, and diverse people together. And I think my mom can speak to this as well, but one of the things we thought about when first exploring wine was just kind of how daunting the whole atmosphere is around the consumption of it and the buying and using all the right adjectives. And especially for my generation, I feel like there's a bit of a learning curve. So I think one thing we really want people to take away from the brand is just enjoy it. Love needs no explanation, and you can't drink wine when your mouth is full of adjectives. We've created a great wine just for you to be able to enjoy and to describe however you want and enjoy whenever you want. And so just like that freedom of expression is something we carry with us a lot.
Yeah, I think the measures we created, we have a beautiful heritage property that the soil and the climate create this great wine. And me being of an older generation where wine was very intimidating, even though I know a lot about it, been drinking it for a very long time. I've lived in France, I've lived in California. It's still, when you order it in a restaurant, you're scared. Do I know enough? Am I going to be embarrassed? Is this the right pairing? And what the good news is that wine making in the world has become so sophisticated that if you are buying wine from a place that is special, including all, Sonoma or France or Italy, the wines are good. They're really good. And all you have to do is be comfortable with yourself and enjoying it. And so that's what we're trying to do, is take a product that has thousands of years of history as being a part of our culture and make you comfortable with just having fun, enjoying it, and celebrating what wine can do to bring people together.
I think your positioning of just pushing more towards enjoying it and loving it is a really great place to be, especially when we think about intimidation and all the negative things that often come with wine. So a second ago, you're talking about the magic that is the vineyard. You have a really, really unique story that you restored a vineyard up in Dry Creek. Can you talk about that experience and what you learned from the restoration?
Yeah.
So we lucked out. It was a COVID purchase. We spent a lot of time as a family together in very small, confined spaces, and we thought, "Wow, we may spend
Drinking a lot of wine.
drinking a lot. The world might have changed. We might end up needing a place where we have more outdoor space and can be together." So we bought this property more as a farm, a place to just be in nature and be with each other, and then discovered that it was just a unique part of the world. Like, Zinfandel grapes have been growing in this small region for over 150 years. It was, if you read some of the history, it was called America's grape back in the time. Like, I think it's
Like the
pre-gold.
1850s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just thought, okay, we have these vineyards. They're really old. There was one owner at this property for 60 years, an older Italian gentleman. And a lot of the area is fourth generation Italian families who came over and cultivated this grape. And so we thought, fun, okay. And yet we never intended to make wine. And yet we were scared to like let this history die, this heritage die. And So we took a few classes and tried to figure out, can we make wine? It'd be such a shame to let this history go in this special place. And Lauren and I tortured ourselves through organic chemistry and winemaking, and we made a great discovery, which was you don't have to be an expert on wine. You just have to have great soil and great climate. And then we kind of launched from there. I thought, okay, let's bring this knowledge to the world that you just have to make good wine and enjoy it. You don't have to have all these specialized degrees and gimmicks or knowledge to really create good wine, but you do. I always tell Lauren that we discovered that 80% of winemaking is what the soil and the land gives you. So that's good news for novice. And so we manage, the property and the farming, and from start to finish, we oversee it, and it's been a great experience because both of us have a lot of education and work experience to be able to bring that to the brand.
Yeah. I think for us too, we're always like towing the line between the respect of tradition and traditional winemaking and the land and all of the old vines and creating something new. And so I think it's been really fun for our relationship because I think we're in kind of the best position we could be in starting this business because she always brings a lens of, respect of older generation and ways of life and what wine has meant to her throughout her life. And I'm always kind of like pushing the other direction. And I think we always land somewhere in the middle. And I think you'll see that in the brands, like it has really playful branding and packaging and all of those things. But our winemaking is a bit more traditional. We're a sustainable vineyard. But we have old vines and we respect a lot of what the land has to offer and what it's been offering in that region for a long time. So I think you'll see a lot of like push and pull with that, which I think creates a better product and brand for us because we kind of get to cater to both audiences a little bit.
That's a really, really unique point because I absolutely agree with you that the packaging is aimed at a younger audience. And it's interesting because when I tasted your Zin, it struck me like this is good juice right here. And so it's interesting how both of you have clearly your different perspectives, as you said, do play well together, but they do respect different generations as well. I love that. If we have time, I would love to dive into the magic that is Sonoma because people love Sonoma so much. So maybe we'll get to that at the end. So the website I found also very younger aiming and fun and playful. I hope those are adjectives you agree with.
Yep.
Something on the site that caught my attention is you mentioned the collection of sensory brands. Can you talk about what that collection is, what inspired the idea, and what we should be looking for?
Yeah, sure. So all of the products have been and will be inspired by kind of the backdrop of the vineyard. And I think when we talk about wine, we talk about this kind of multi-sensory experience, whether that's aroma or where you're having it, who you're enjoying it with. And so we came into wine knowing that it was going to be not just about taste or smell, but about the holistic experience of what wine could do for someone. And so sort of the thread between all of our products are taste, touch, and smell. And again, like finding your inner dance and allowing you to express your personality. So we have the wines that we just launched with, and we're also launching a trio of fragrances, which are loosely inspired by sort of the terroir and the vineyard and all of those things, but more so about just the experience of what it's like to be on the vineyard and to kind of express yourself in new and challenging ways. And I think we'll expand from there. We're doing different types of wines. We're doing sparkling wines, but everything is sort of inspired by the estate and the magic of that, whether through feeling or like actual product.
Also, it's novel to us, so we have a fresh perspective on Sonoma. So when we arrive, we have this just nose full of these incredible scents that we're not used to. The smell of green, the smell of moss, the smell of like crushed grapes, the smell
Like
of
oak barrel,
fire and oak.
Yeah.
So we're like, wow, every time we arrive, we like, wow, this is really cool. This is so distinct and unique, and it just elevates your experience of being there. And so that's part of it too. Like we're trying to be an experience brand, and we are going to bring more experiences to the brand when we can. We're thinking of things like having an artist in residence, like creating like visually beautiful contributions. We have an art collection there that we inspired us to sort of bring art to the brand. It's largely from a diverse group of artists from the West Coast who are very colorful and young and also push boundaries. So our idea with the senses is like we're trying to, this is a brand that you enter into our world and you get to experience people and life in a way that's very unique and bold and fun.
Yeah, because I think wine is obviously one dimension of the vineyard, but smell is such an important like experiential feeling, and it's so tied to memory. And I think wine brands have dabbled with it, but they haven't taken a leap. Like we often would go to vineyards and see like a Cabernet candle, and we're kind of like, ugh, like no one really wants that. But what is a step further that we could take this? This also kind of like traditional esoteric industry that requires a nose and chemistry, but also a lot of art, and what can like we bring to the table. And we'll see, but we love them, so we're excited to launch them.
I think the one thing I'm hearing a lot of is we all love and respect wine, but your brand and your team is bringing, as you said, more of an experience to it. What are both of your backgrounds outside of wine, education, career-wise, et cetera?
So I was raised in Connecticut and went to Dartmouth for undergrad, was a creative writer, creative nonfiction. So always kind of have that storytelling bent. And so after school, I worked at a lot of businesses in marketing. So I started my career at Uber Eats. I worked at Refinery 29. And then right before the pandemic, I worked for AB InBev. So that was like my first kind of foray into alcohol. And then kind of during COVID, I got my MBA at Columbia and really decided, we come from a very entrepreneurial family, which my mom can talk about, but kind of decided like, now's the time. Like we all got this massive reset of our priorities and, you know, just life in general. And I really want to try this. And so, again, this opportunity arose and here we are.
Yeah, I think talking about experience, we're a family who really, really believes in experiences. So I too have dabbled in many different areas. I was raised in Southern California. I went to Scripps College. I actually was a dance major until I was not. I became an international relations major. I lived in France for a while. I then moved to New York City and worked for JP Morgan trading money market securities. I didn't find that was my passion. So I went to business school. I went to Harvard Business School and I got a degree, you know, a master's in business. And then I worked for American Express, where I started a weekend travel program. So that was my first kind of, it was a little startup within the travel segment of American Express. I got my sea legs really of starting a business, and I quit that business because I had kids, and I quit the company. And then I started my own mail order company where I was selling handmade paper products from around the world through direct mail, which was before the internet, before many kinds of useful technologies for that industry. And then I decided again that maybe I needed a little more education. I went back and got a doctorate at Columbia in organizational leadership. And so I have a consulting firm on the side where I consult leaders and organizations about how to handle complex challenges in a complex world. So that's really what my degree is in. So my daughter gets through business school and we decide, wow, maybe we can sort of marry all these wonderful experiences together and create something really new and unique using our wisdom and experience that's very generational, but still covers a lot of areas. And both of us have a passion for art. I actually have been taking painting classes for 20 years. I play the piano. I dabble in all sorts of cultural kind of areas. And I feel our family's creative and entrepreneurial. I feel like we felt the need to bring something new and creative and experiential to the world post the pandemic. Like there was just this aching for a way. Like I have a lot of my degree is in how, is in organizational leadership, which contains a lot of psychology and biology, which taught me that humans have the most basic need, the most foundational need they have is to connect to one another. And without that connection, there's much is lost in terms of like human life and progress and happiness. So I think the chance to really find something that helps people connect in a way that is really foundational to human happiness was also inspirational for us.
The two of you having such impressive backgrounds and you both brought up generational, which is obvious, of course, but so different backgrounds, different generations, different education, but both of you highly, highly educated.
Yeah, we
And
love
the two
school.
words,
We love school. We did,
Yeah.
yes.
We love school.
the two words you're both using a lot are experience and connect. And what I love is the best bottle of wine does that exact thing, which is it connects others. And so let's get into the good stuff, the bottles themselves. Let's talk about the two requests I'll have, any bottles you want to talk about, but you kind of teased that there's other bottles coming in the future.
Yeah.
So let's certainly talk about what's on the site now, but if you can bring that up as well, I'd love to hear more.
Absolutely. So we launched with our rosé, which is really beautiful. It's an intentional rosé. So it's from our Primitivo grapes, and we harvested them early and intentionally for rosé. And it has this really beautiful, distinct, like watermelon, almost Jolly Rancher aroma. And it's really playful and full, but also dry. And it's been a really big hit. So that was a fun debut for us. And then we just launched our trio of reds. And what makes them unique, I think, is because and this goes kind of into the story about the restoration of the vineyard, we're still learning our land and like learning from it. So we chose to harvest from different blocks and treat the wines in a similar fashion and bottle them separately to kind of see what personalities they expressed. So we have 3 right now. One is the old vine, Zinfandel, which is from our oldest head-trained vines, which is sort of the deepest, moodiest, like richest wine. It's really lovely. And then we have an estate wine, which is actually from Primitivo, kind of a different word for Zinfandel. And that one is a bit lighter. And then we have a third, which is a duo, which is a blend of both. And so it's really helped us to understand. And they are quite different. They're obviously all Zinfandels in their own expressions, but they're all quite different. So it's really fun. And people often say Zinfandel is kind of like a map of the land. And I think that's really true here, which is super cool. So we have those, and I'll let you chime in, but we have 2 forthcoming sparkling wines, because I think it really speaks to our ethos about being playful and to my generation especially. But it's funny because we definitely have had like different tastes in terms of what we like in sparkling wines and the occasions. And so we're going through that product development now, which is super cool.
So it's really fun for us because being on the East Coast, Zinfandel is a really unknown varietal. Yeah. And we think it's underrated. Like Californians know it's been around for a long time. It has a lot of possibilities with food. And so what we're trying to do is kind of bring to light this really good wine and do it in a slightly different way. So we are picking ours earlier, trying to have it be less jammy, juicy, heavy, have it be a little lighter, have it be a little less alcoholic than some of the more traditional Zinfandels that are kind of on our street. And that's really trying to address the changes, consumer changes, and like what people like to drink. Our wine's chillable. It's super easy to eat with most any food, especially ethnic food, spicy foods. So that makes it fun and approachable. But I think what Lauren said too, look forward to what's coming. So our 2022 was our first vintage. 2023 is already It's been in barrels, and we'll be bottling that in probably in March. But it's going to be a little different because the climate was different that year, and
That's what's so fun.
We're going to make it a little lighter, I
Yeah.
think, because we knew we wanted to pick it even a little earlier.
Yeah.
But the rosé was just a fluke. Our winemaker said, gee, try a Zinfandel rosé. Most people don't try it, and people love it. It's so distinct and unique that led us to, hey, maybe we should focus more on this early picking handmade process that is very naturally done when you make sparkling and a natural, what they call petulant natural, which is a short, quick made, no barrel storage. So we'll see. Those will be new next year, and they'll take some time for us to bring them to market, but they're coming.
So we're looking at late 25 or early 26 for the next lines.
Well, so what are we? Let's see, this 24. So our 24 vintages will come out our rosé from 24 will come out in March.
This March.
The reds
25.
will come out probably in the early summer, depending on, just sort of rest time after we bottle them. And the 2024 rosé, did I say that already? The 2024 rosé will be out in March.
Mhm.
We're going to bottle the sparkling in January, but that will be another at least a year until you'll see that. But the petulant natural, we also probably will be launching at about the same time as the rosé.
Yeah, I think what's fun about having both is it's kind of an early release sparkling and a later release. So one is going to be like probably lighter, more effervescent, like maybe geared towards younger generation, and the other will have that kind of like toastier champagne flavor. So it'll be fun to have both.
From a tasting point of view, what I like about that is they can compare right there and then at the booth. You can compare both, and you can decide which one's your favorite, but you can also play against each other. Where oftentimes, if it's two bottles that are so similar, it's really hard to decide which one's your favorite because they're so similar. So I kind of like the compare and contrast experience of it.
There's just a lot of potential with Zinfandel. It was kind of lost as to a lot of people and drinkers for various reasons. I think it was after the gold rush and prohibition or whatever. It was such a popular wine, and then kind of people moved on to cabs and merlots and other reds, and it's kind of been under the radar for a very long time, and it's a super versatile, easy drinking, fun, good wine. And so I think the other idea we have is to bring this wine to people's attention, because we kind of need some different wines. Like if you're looking for something to pair with heavier food or complex food, like you don't always want to have a cab. You want to have something a little lighter or easier. And this Zinfandel is a very versatile and really good varietal to make wine with.
I'm glad you're experimenting with it, because everything you just said is, in my experience, it's usually my third or fourth choice exactly for those reasons, the jammy and the heavy. And so a lighter option will definitely give me more ways to play with it, for lack of a better words. I'm glad you're doing that. You've mentioned food 2 or 3 times in the last minute. So let's dive into, for both of you, do you have a favorite wine and food pairing?
This one's so hard. I was thinking, I think for me, well, I think rosé and like oysters or any seafood is just awesome, and ours is great. And hopefully our sparklings will play well with this as well. But I think sparkling wine and like a burger is one of my favorites, like a very high-low situation. So I'm excited for that. And in terms of red, I just think when I think of Zinfandel, and it's probably just on my mind because it's upcoming, but like Thanksgiving foods. And also just like it speaks very much to like the hominess in our story and just bringing everyone around the table. I think that's one of my, like, talk about kind of experiential pairing. I think that moment, like Thanksgiving wine is very, I don't know.
Yeah.
That resonates with me.
Yeah. And we have a lot of ethnic food, so it holds up really well to spice. it holds up really well to sweet and sour. So like it's great with Indian food, it's great with Mexican food, it's great when you're putting, apples in your pork chops. So, when you have salty and sweet at the same time, it doesn't, a burgundy is usually killed instantly by those kinds of flavors. It's too fragile, and it's not fragile, but it still like has so many nice aromas and flavors in it to hold up on its own and also to enhance whatever you're eating. And it's great with meats, of course. It's great with pizza.
I was going to say, like, in my New York mindset, like pizza and a nice glass of Zinfandel, whether it's chilled or not, like I feel like it's so satisfying. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
What I love at what both of you just said is the versatility of quite literally your answers are all over the spectrum.
Yeah.
But here's the thing is as you explain why, it all makes sense. And so it really does show that the varietals you're working with really fit all cuisines, and from early like an oyster all the way through a more heavier dish. So there's a lot of options out there. Throughout the whole conversation, we brought up Sonoma a few times. So if you don't mind, just because we have you, for either of you, for both of you, what's something magical about Sonoma that people don't necessarily realize or that you learned through this journey?
Oh my gosh. Well, Sonoma, I think true of Zinfandel and true of Sonoma, even though I think it's getting more attention now, is it kind of always had this underdog energy to Napa, or sort of the lore of Napa. I think that's really cool. And one of the hidden gems, or not so hidden maybe, but we kind of do every time, is we wake up really early and we drive to the Redwood Forest and just kind of watch the sun rise through the trees, and we eat a burrito because we have terrible burritos in New York. And it's that moment and experience kind of every time that feels like so Sonoma to me, because it's really unique in terms of like climate and microclimate, that you have this like very rich forest and also this super dry heat. And so for us, like being able to have both, and driving into that sort of forest that's super mystical and magical is something I love about Sonoma. And then you can drive out to the coast, and it's just got such an amazing range. And I think the other thing I'll say is, especially where we are in Healdsburg, there's been an amazing food community that I think was always there probably, but born and proliferated from sort of the Single Thread community, which is the 3 Michelin star restaurant there. And so it's brought a lot of like wonderful food and cooks and really talented people that have created this culture of just like amazing farm food everywhere. And so that's been super fun to explore and experience, since we are obviously big food people. So
yeah, I think the surprise about Sonoma, like Lauren said, is range. Like you have coastal fog, you have 120-degree valley weather, you have rivers and lakes and the ocean. And then to me, contrasted to Napa, like the nature is just so much a part of the experience. You have the hills, the rolling hills, the forests, the national parks. Like there's little parks all around us.
And it contrasts to Southern California, because I feel like my idea of California, because of where she grew up, was always Southern California, like beaches, no real seasons. Like, I mean, growing up, I think LA has a great food scene now, but you kind of saw a little bit of like, not amazing food and things like that. And so coming to like a place with seasons, and it's interesting with our kind of New England backdrop as well. They have like an interesting resonance, which is cool, I think.
The distinct part of Sonoma is how important nature is to everyone there. It's not just about wine, it's incredible nature. And that's what inspired us to have this sensory brand also. Is I've never seen, and we both traveled a lot, lived in a lot of places. I've never seen such natural beauty in such a small area.
Yeah. I think that's what the idea is with our products too. It's like, gosh, we have to bring people here in some way, like differently than just having them taste the wine, which is obviously one dimension of what our vineyard and life there is. So like as many dimensions as we can bring people into that realm to experience that is like definitely the dream.
We're with Cynthia and Lauren Russell behind Dancing Wine. Not only are the wines themselves currently good, but what they have coming out sounds really exciting. We're talking about sensory experiences. If you love hearing this, if you love what they're talking about, let's learn more ways to get in touch. So whether it's social media, website, other ways, what are the best ways for our audience to find and follow Dancing Wine?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our website, which is wearedancing.com. And then we also are on Instagram, which is at Dancing Sonoma. We love hearing from people because it's really what our brand is all about. So.